How about we do something a little bit different? We're going to do a underneath the vehicle walk around. I figure why not? So it's not very pretty under here, and we'll get over that. And there's some ugly ass wells under here too, but we're going to go anyway underneath. So this truck was a factory cabin chassis dual wheel truck. So instead of a Dana 70, like a pickup dually would have, it has a 14 bolt. So that's a factory 14 bolt. And that's why it has these goofy offset brackets you can't see very well because of the dual wheel setup, and the hubs are different. And I actually have to run wheel spacers on the back of this. Everybody says they're so evil. I've had no real problems. So that's the factory rear end, and it still has the factory 410 gears. It does have a grizzly locker in it, but that is all. I have a couple of Bilstein rear shocks on it right now. Homemade shackle flip. And if you look, the way this frame is, see if I can get a good sign of it, how it's kicked up right here, right there. That's where the axle kick up was on this truck brand new. So basically where I'm standing is where the rear axle used to be. It was a long truck, but that gives me a complete straight frame that's really tall and has a lot of cross members in it. And 1-ton Chevrolet Squarebody trucks, the frames are actually different than a 3/4 or a half. The frame is thicker material, and it's actually taller by about 3/4 of an inch. The rear springs I'm currently running are a set of 60-inch long rear springs, which is what would be on a 1-ton Chevy Express van. They were here laying around, so I tried them out. The original 56s finally got beat to death, and I needed to change something up, so I figured I'd try these. And actually, they work pretty good, and I don't seem to have axle wrap issues. Matter of fact, I disabled my anti-wrap bar. I removed the top link off of it. I left it in here because, I don't know, it makes me feel good there's something that'll hit maybe before the drive shaft does. And talking about the drive shaft, it is a stock front drive shaft out of a 6-liter Power Stroke Super Duty. Here, you probably can't see very well because I have really crappy lighting, is a 203-205 off-road designed doubler. The homemade cross member and skid plate that's all seen better days. Front drive shaft is a homemade shortened 1410 drive shaft. I prefer using 1410s on something that has a lot of suspension travel that can bind the joints, especially up at the transfer case side, because they have a lot of operating angle, more so than a 1350 CV. Up here you see my leaky SM465 right there, and my leaky 8.1. The exhaust on this is 3-inch off of a set of eBay headers for a Chevelle that all works over to up here into a merge collector that runs into 4-inch exhaust that now runs out the back and out the side after a little incident we had last year going to Texas with my stepson. I keep my spare drive shafts up on top of the sliders. You can see there's the rear spare, there's a front spare. I probably should put the front spare in, to be honest with you, because this one's bent and actually rubs the exhaust when the hubs are locked in. The front springs are 52-inch Chevrolets, which is the common spring for a half-ton Chevy Squarebody truck rear spring, but they've been added to and modified. This leaf here is out of a lifted Jeep pack because it has this nice band on it, had a nice curve, and then I cut other ones to match. So basically what I did is replace the overload spring with some other leaves that had a good arch to them, and built a pack. Here you can see my sway bar I got from Off-Road Design. This truck wasn't horrible on the road, but it drives a lot nicer on the road with it. It's not where it's supposed to be because my front axle's pushed so far forward, and the fact that I had these King shocks mounted where I have them, I had to scoot the bar pretty far forward to make everything clear. And it does, not by much, but everything does clear. The drag link clears at full lock, everything clears. The bump stops I'm using are rears off of a Super Duty Ford, I think 2011 and newer. I kind of like them, they were pretty good. Steering box, just a stock store steering box. I use a DIY 4x end cap to get my one tap for the hydro assist. The other one, you tap the top cap to get the other side of the line. And then it runs down in hydraulic hoses I get from Surplus Center, just universal pre-cut length hoses, onto a Surplus Center ram that still survives somehow. But that's my hydro assist setup. Then I have a tie rod from Chris Durham Motorsports. Aluminum tie rod is a real game changer because with a full-size truck, you kind of drive by braille. So this saves a lot of bent tie rods. I'm not saying you can bend an aluminum tie rod because you most certainly can. My son proved that on the Toyota. But when you bump into a rock, you can bump in and back up and nothing happens. You're good to go. The front axle is a stock Dana 60 that was in this truck. The only thing I did, I put single wheel hubs on it. It used to be you could buy single wheel hubs from Rock Auto about 7-8 years ago from AC Delco, and they were dirt cheap. Not so much anymore. You can't even get the AC Delco ones anymore. So I think the only new one is from Solid Axle, the actual company. I think they still make them. The drag link is from WFO Concepts. It has this bend in it because it clears the stock cross member that I really should change out to an Off-Road Design tubular one, but I have not. It's a cut and weld to length, uses Chevrolet drag link ends, which if you didn't know, a Chevrolet drag link end has more operating angle in it than a normal tie rod end. They can travel a long ways. The steering arms, also WFO Concept, they're springless. So it has the adjuster nut on the top. I was having problems with the spring style arms on this one. I had the 42-inch pit bulls on it. They just did not hold up, so I switched to springless style. So now about twice a year I have to check them. Basically you torque them down to about 20 foot-pounds and lock them down, and they're usually good to go. Front axle, stock inner shafts, Spicer Life Series joints, which are awesome, and some cheap 35 spline chromo outers. I have a Spartan locker in the stock carrier, still holding up somehow. The front hubs are currently mile marker. I have a set of Yukons I'm going to swap before the next trip. And I'm running some Trail Gear Creeper bead locks, which I've been pretty happy with. And now I have 40-inch Cooper STT Pros on here, which are awesome. They're super quiet on the road, and so far I can't complain how they go off-road, but the only place I've really off-roaded with these tires so far has been in Texas Hill Country, and that traction there is pretty insane. So kind of hard to completely judge, but it works pretty good. Just so you know, the 52s, I did the cheapest possible way. This front hanger is an OEM hanger. It used to be on the back side of that body mount. You see the old rivet still hanging in there. I just scooted to the front side and moved the brace and everything up there with it. And that pushed the whole front axle forward and had a longer setup for the spring itself. which I just ran them in the stock frame locations. Everybody tells you you've got to move it, and really I don't think that's true. Obviously I have not done it on mine. I am running a 6-inch long shackle. I could probably get away with a little bit shorter shackle, but when it's on the ground, that shackle's pretty much straight up and down, and it makes it drive pretty good and ride pretty nice. There you can see the bottom of the old 8-1 oil pan. And up under here, I have a very cobbled together winch plate. And that's how I have my winch recessed behind the stock bumper. The bumper isn't actually in the stock location. It's pushed out a couple inches, if I remember right, and wrapped back. At one time, I had the whole front bumper, stock bumper on here and looked pretty stock, but I bashed the ever-looping crap out of it when I was in California. So when I came home, I trimmed the ends off with, you know, ideas of I'll build a front bumper for it. Still hasn't happened, and I'll be honest, at this point, it might never happen. And here we have the front factory tow hooks, which oddly enough, the way I mounted them on here, they're cocked a little bit forward. They actually work really good because they stick out the farthest of anything and actually work as ramps and will ramp me up an obstacle till the tire catches. They work pretty good. As you can see, they're ground down pretty hard, especially that one. This one's got a little bit on it. So that worked out well. Then we have a Warren Xeon 12 with Spydura line on it. Warren really helped me out on that, and I can't complain. It's a great winch. Same with the line and the hook. And then we have some eBay headlights that are bright as hell and actually have a good cutoff. So that pretty much covers the bottom side walk around. Thought you guys might enjoy it.